Hey there folks, it's Elena from Always Discover. I'm here to talk to you about what you just saw in the previous clip. That is a big massive protest going on in Bogota regarding education. So there has been a protest going on for the last 2 months or so all around Colombia for public education. What's the problem? Funding. So to give you some background, this is something that Colombia has been dealing with for years. There's never enough money, and maybe that sounds familiar to you. There's never enough money for anything, ever. In this circumstance, the university is claiming they are in a deficit of about 500 million Colombian pesos. So the thing is with this, translating money from Spanish to English and also from COPs to dollars, it's been very difficult. But the point of this is to express that there's a lot of money that the universities are missing, and that's why they are protesting. Currently they have 3.9 billion budgeted for the remainder of the year, but they're claiming that they're missing, like I said, 500 million COP. And they are demanding about 4 billion more for the year 2019. The protests are occurring now because the government is set to vote on the budget on the 20th of October. There's a lot at stake here. And some more backstory regarding why these universities, public universities, just don't have enough money is because the budget has not been rising at the same rate as inflation. Also, in the last decade, the number of students has quadrupled. They went from financing only 100,000 students, more or less, in public universities to over 650,000. And with the change of inflation, the need for investment, universities want more money. People are particularly upset because this year the new budget has come out, and although there is a proposed increase of 5.8% to the public education sector, and they are the leading investment for the Colombian government, they're also investing more in military. And so that's been the big inflammatory thing that people are holding on to. Education will receive 41.26 billion COP, and the military or defense spending, as well as the police force, is receiving 33.5 billion. We're dealing with lots of money, big, huge country budgets, so you get the point. The other reason why people are upset is because there are programs in place that are investing in other universities, like private universities. With the crisis that the public universities are in, people are upset that there's still money going to these private universities, which theoretically have the funds, or at least the population, to invest in them. And lastly, people are just scared. They don't want their education to be taken from them, and they don't want to lose their jobs. There's a lot of people working who rely on this as their livelihood. So that's kind of the circumstance that's happening here in Colombia and why people are protesting. These protests are a little bit inflamed because of the president. The new president is not well received in that community because he is more conservative and more business-minded, and so privatization is a thing that's being invested in, and so people are fearful that that could happen to education as well. But that said, I think one has to be fair that before I did some research on this, what I was told was 30% of the budget was going to be slashed from public education. That was going to be invested in the military, but that's completely inaccurate because they are increasing the budget this year. It's just not enough. And so it's one thing to be upset about it not being enough and being fearful of losing your job and losing education, not being able to provide quality education for your country. But I think things are getting a little bit inflamed, just like they are, seems to be in all the world, because of the polarization of these two different parties. And so facts are being turned into alternative facts. So what that means for me, as an English teacher here, it's kind of complicated because I'm financed through institutions that these people are protesting, in a sense, because there's government funds going to these organizations that are paying people like me to be here. But basically that means that I am out of work for the next 2 weeks. Doesn't mean I'm not getting paid. I'm still getting paid because my salary is independent of the university itself. It does mean that there's a cessation in activity at the university. There will be no classes, there will be no clubs, there will be no tutorials. The footage that you are about to see is from the massive protest that occurred on the 10th of October. 32 public institutions in the entire country got out on the streets with signs, shirts, the whole 9 yards, and marched through the city to have their voices heard. And so I participated in that to support my students and my colleagues, and also to understand what peaceful protest it looks like. It was a very cool experience. I'm intrigued to find out what happens, and I would love to know what you think about the situation and maybe how it relates to your situation in your country. If you're here in Colombia and have a different take on it, let me know. I want to learn more. Stay curious and always discover. Until next time.